County Board of Equalization meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. It's 3:00 p.m. Please silence all cell phones. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the county boardroom. We have present today Commissioners Kelly, Klug, Warren, Mixon, and Burmeister, along with our County Administrator Dan Hoynes and what's your position, Kendra?
Operations Supervisor.
Our Operations Supervisor, Kendra, is here in place of Deb. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with the consent equalization agenda. Would anyone like to see any items removed from the consent agenda, or if not, take a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Equalization is adjourned, and we'll move on to the Board of Commissioners. All right, welcome to the Sarpy County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. It's 3:01 p.m. We have present today Commissioners Kelly, Klug, Warren, Mixon, and Burmeister, along with our County Administrator Dan Hoynes and our Operations Supervisor Kendra. We'll start with Commissioners' comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Warren.
So is this the time?
This is the time.
Boom, I'm on.
You're on.
Thank you. I'm excited today to be able to talk about Connect Sarpy for just a little bit. I've got an old map this week. I love old stuff. That's because I'm old. An 1880 map of Sarpy County. And it's fascinating to look at it. You know, the road system was very simple. A couple of bridges crossed over into Cass and Saunders County, but not a lot. In 1886, Burlington built a railroad line that went from Ashland to Omaha. When that happened, Gretna moved from the small village of Forest City to where Gretna is now, and that was the initiation of Gretna. Gretna grew. It hit a spike, it kind of back down, but as long as I've been alive, which I can go back in the early 1950s, Gretna grew. Every year there was a new subdivision, there were new homes, and when I was mayor in the 2000s, I tried to figure out growth. How does growth happen and what do you do? And what I found out, I talked to somebody from Arizona, that she said, are you experiencing growth now? And I said, well, yeah, we're seeing growth. She goes, okay, here's what happens. Growth comes, and then growth happens, and then growth becomes exponential. Gretna fits that mold very well. Gretna grew, Gretna continued to grow, and then all of a sudden, growth in the Gretna area became exponential. Sarpy County looked very closely at what to do, and our biggest plague to our budget was sprawl. When there'd be a housing development down there a mile, or one over there 2 miles, or whatever, what we looked at was the area between 168th over to 192nd, from Harrison south to 370. There was 9 square miles in that area that had infrastructure. They had water, they had sewer, but there was not a road structure. So we embarked on a very aggressive $90 million project to bring the missing factor in that area, which was the road system. And we were able to get some legislation through to where we could use what worked out for us a very good system, construction manager at risk. And on this project, we worked with Hawkins Construction, and Olson did our engineering on the project, and this project has grown, and we did all this without raising taxes. To me, that's the big thing. With the growth, we also brought in additional fees. So of our $90 million project, we saved money by the way we did it, but we've also, at this point in time, had over 15 million contributed by developers and builders that are going into that area. It's a very efficient way to work, and the work was completed. Kind of silently, but here a couple weeks ago, I talked to Mr. Crockett, and Tom said, I think we're going to open that today at 4 o'clock. And it was funny. At 4 o'clock, there were cars in line. It's like they knew that it was going to be open. But if you have not been out in that area and driven it, just do the 180th up to Giles, and it's Giles, Western, by the way. Giles, take it across to 192nd and then back south on 192nd and get a feel for what's going on in there. I have no idea what the growth is. There are more homes being built in that area now. I would hate to go out and try to count them on my own. But we're very happy with the project. We thank Hawkins for the work that they've done, and for Olson, and we look forward to this area continuing to grow out. Hawkins has some people here, Chris and Tom. Would you guys like to make a couple of comments?
We would love to.
Yeah, Tom didn't say that. He didn't say I'd love to.
He said so after I asked him to come.
If you just give your names so that Kendra can have that.
We'll do the formal here. So I'm Chris Hawkins, CHRISHAWKINS. I'm the president of Hawkins Construction, and with me is Tom Crockett, TOMCROCKETT. You probably have that on lots of forms already. I want to be brief, but a couple things that are worth noting. First, thank you for letting us be your contractor. It is an honor to work with the county. But second, for your purposes, I imagine in your seats you get second guessed every once in a while on decisions you make, particularly when they're outside the box. And as you noted, this project, Connect Go, was a CM at-risk approach. I don't know if everybody knows this. Connect Go is the first road in the state of Nebraska built under that delivery method. Anytime you take on something different, you innovate, there's an element of risk. You stick your neck out. And it is worth everyone here knowing you made the right decision. The project was monumentally successful. And that's not always true for projects like this. There's one key thing that made this a success that everyone should know, and that is it is a true case study in public-private partnership. Between the county, Hawkins, and Olson, everyone was very mission-focused. We wanted to prove that you made the right decision, so hopefully there's a chance to do more of this, right? And Tom will talk about what exactly success was, but this doesn't happen everywhere. It is sometimes difficult when there's this kind of money on the line and this kind of risk to put everyone on the same page. But in this case, your engineer, your contractor, and all your representatives, I saw Scott Bovick over there, shared the same goal, and that goal was met. Everyone involved should be incredibly proud. We know we are, and again, we're honored that we were a part of this project. So thank you. Tom, you want to talk about specifically what success means?
Yeah, I don't have to spell my name again. Chris did that for me, so that was helpful. Teamwork. Much like this project consists of throughout. From the inception of this project till the day it was completed, there was nothing but teamwork. Olson, Hawkins, Sarpy County, Lamper-Nearson as a subconsultant to Olson had one goal in mind, and that was to get the ball across the goal line, and that was to get this project done ahead of schedule and under budget. And to that, I think we were quite successful. And the fact that there was added scope to this project at no additional cost to the project, and the fact that there will be in excess of $1 million in unused contingencies that the county benefits from. Also, speaking on behalf of Tony Egelhoff from Olson, who's not here today, he's under the weather, there will be close to $1 million returned in engineering fees, unused engineering fees. So I think that math is roughly $2 million in savings. So, project was done well ahead of schedule. Had this project been a typical design bid build, it probably would have been in excess of 4 years from incept to completion. We did it in under 3 years, so pleased with that. But with all the planning and everything, that the office guys did. Nothing happens without the guys in the field. From Hawkins, we had a very dedicated project management staff in the office with Tyler Ferringer, Josh Eisenman, Jesse Ritter. But the field guys is what I really want to talk about, because they're the ones out there every single day when it's 110 heat index or when it's 0 degrees, never missed a beat. In fact, there were in excess of 186,000 man-hours worked on this project. And more importantly than the hours worked, there were 0 lost time accidents. So not only did they get this thing done ahead of schedule, they did it safely, and we're really proud of that. The guys in the field, our superintendents, our field leadership, Troy Alexander, Joe Liston, Matt Story, Nolan Olson, Riley Wondercheck. From the county, we had Neil Sellers out there, and Marty Weander led the Olson team from the field. No different than the office planning, the field guys worked endlessly together as a team, and I believe the results speak for themselves. So very appreciative of the opportunity to do this project with the county, a first of its kind, as Chris said, and just really appreciative and glad it turned out the way it did, but it was the dedication of all the people involved, so appreciate it.
Any questions?
Thank you very much, Guy. I was also going to mention, Denny, did you want to make some comments?
One of the things that I found to be unique to this group, we had such a diverse group of folks working on the project at the same time. Been in engineering for 42 years, and I have never seen anything go quite so smoothly. And again, the commissioners here that took hold of this and helped us with a lot of the small projects that we dealt with during that time frame. And again, as Tom said, our staff, particularly in Neil, and along with, let's see, I had 4 engineers, so the other 3 were helping whenever they had to. But again, the teams were great, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Denny. Thanks to Hawkins, and thanks to all that were involved. I know our legal team put a lot of effort into this as well. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Great work, Hawkins. Appreciate it. Okay, next, I'd like to invite the commissioners down to the front here. So we announced last week that Dan Hoynes will be moving on to a new position. We had to be a little stealthy about this presentation because we were afraid he wouldn't show up if he knew that we were going to recognize him. So he's looking at me with evil eyes at this point. But we wanted to award Dan a Core Value Award for his time here at the county. He's been here 6.5 years. He really has been a visionary during his time here. He's moving on to the sewer agency, which is a passion of his. He'll be a great leader there. We'll miss him here at the county. He's worked hard in his position. He'll be missed here, but greatly appreciated in that role, so he won't be far from us. But I've known him to be a person of conviction, to care about others, and to be tenacious in the pursuit of his goals, a word he used himself when I first met him. And we're really grateful for his service here, and we wish him all the very best. I'd like to invite the other commissioners to make any comments they'd like to make. Starting with Commissioner.
Well, Dan, this is a sad day for me, really, in a lot of ways, in the fact that you're leaving your role as the leader of the county, for all intents and purposes, certainly the face of the county. I remember, it seems like yesterday, but it was 7 years ago when we had a conversation in a parking lot about the pending opening of the Sarpy County administrative position, and you told me you were interested in it, and I was stunned and extremely happy that you would strap that on. But now that we're looking in the rearview mirror, I get it. I know why you wanted to come here, because there's so much going on in this county. There's so many things happening on a daily basis that it takes a leadership toolkit that's filled with vision, energy, resilience, and probably the best trait that you possess: you never take no for an answer. You always find a solution. And just looking back at the things that we've accomplished under your leadership validates all those statements. We've got a brand new correctional center, $80 million, built under your watch, no tax dollars. Jim just went on did a very eloquent job talking about the construction, the infrastructure, the Connect Sarpy project. One of the things that wasn't mentioned that you certainly have your fingerprints all over is Platteview Road. Although we haven't built that road, we're so much further along now under your leadership than we were before you got here. It's going to become a reality, and when it does, maybe we'll consider naming it after you. Or maybe not. But I think the most important thing you did, and I think the thing that brought you to Sarpy County in my mind, was the opportunity to participate in a once-in-a-generation project that will impact the lives of Sarpy Countyans for probably the next century, and that's the sewer system. That, in and of itself, is a monumental accomplishment, and there's no way we would have pipe in the ground and be flushing toilets next year if it wasn't for Dan Hoyne's leadership. I mean, he proverbially herded cats. When you bring in 6 different entities toward a common goal, it can be a challenge, even under optimal circumstances. But when all those entities have their own vested interests, it's significantly a magnitude of order harder, and Dan managed it. And not only did he manage it, but we achieved success. And so whatever happens moving forward, regardless, I will say that his fingerprints were on the blueprint of this whole process and this whole project. And I'm really happy in one regard that you're leaving. It's because you're going to go lead that sewer agency and take it to the next level. So, I wanted to go into Dan's office. He used to have this poster up there that I think he got from the city pavilion when he left there. He just has these, I mean, like he would wrestle with lions. It was a great analogy of his attributes that make him such a great leader. And I wanted to take a picture of it and read some of them because they're so appropriate. But I think you get the point. We're going to close the door on this chapter of him being a great administrator, but we're going to open the door of him being a great sewer agency lead, and that's certainly going to continue to benefit the county for the years to come. So thank you, Dan.
Simple comments, Dan. Thanks for what you've done. We've been friends for a long time, and appreciate you. I think I'm going to take credit for the pipe in the ground comment as the ridge line. I think that's my comment. But I remember a meeting saying we just need to get pipe in the ground, and you did it, and you did it well. Now we need to get pipe going west.
Well, Commissioner Kelly summed up most of everything, and he did a very very excellent job in that. And just a few little stories of Dan Hoynes, and he reminded me in a little card he sent to me about when we first met, and I showed him how to order food at Culver's at a bargain price. And he's never forgotten that. And he reminds me all the time. But he was totally amazed at that. And I still laugh to this day. That just cracks me up. But the other thing, when I was mayor of Bellevue, I was fortunate to be involved with quite a few things. The first time I met Dan was the Sarpy County cities, and we just seemed to hit it off. And I remember when he decided to put his name in for the administrator job, and he's always said to me, which I gotta repeat back to him, he always appreciated working with me, always called me a fine human. Well, I don't know if there's a finer human than this man sitting over here as well. And he's done so much for this county and has put so much time and effort in, and it truly shows. And Commissioner Kelly mentioned it's a generational project, and he's still going to be involved with it. And it was always just fun because I could think outside of the box with him, and I think we came up with a few good things over the course of time. Not everything gets implemented, but to be able to have some vision and stuff, and it's fun to bounce things off of him. So, Dan, thank you very much. The county's indebted to you.
So Dan, I appreciate you sticking around, listening to us. I'm reminded the first time that we met, I was in Leadership Sarpy in 2017, and you came and presented, and the main thing that he talked about was the wastewater agency. So it seems very, very appropriate that you are going off to head that agency. Seems to have come full circle and makes perfect sense. Then the next time we met up was when I was running for office. We met and had lunch at Ollie and Hobbs. It was a great conversation. If I'm not going to lie, it felt a little bit more like an interrogation, but I think that was just your inner cop showing. But I've learned a ton from you over the years. It's incredible that when we first met was over 6 years ago now. Time flies. The amount that you have been able to accomplish while being here is phenomenal. Taking the bull by the horns and just running with things. And you know, Don hit on the head. You don't take no for an answer. When you get something in your vision, it's going to happen. And we're all indebted to you for that. And your leadership has been phenomenal. I have learned a ton from you over the last 6 years. And while you're moving on to a different place, I hope that we can stay in contact and keep the relationship alive and keep the learnings going. So thank you so much for your efforts, Dan. I wish you the best of luck.
Dan, we'd like you to come up so we can give you your award. And if you'd like to say a few words, you're welcome to. Being a person that hates when somebody calls me up to say a few words with no warning, you're welcome not to as well. Completely up to you.
Thank you for all the kind words. Where's Tom Dargy at? Because you're in trouble, Tom. So I was telling him I wasn't coming today, and he said, no, you do it for the other people. So I have to tell the Garrett Nixon story, though, right? That belies an explanation. So did you know if you go to Culver's, they don't ID you to order a kid's meal? So Gary was explaining that to me while we were standing in line. And so I'm like, I can really order a kid's meal? He goes, yeah. And so we sat down and we ate lunch and we got ready to go. And he goes, now, never forget this. And he took the little sack that Culver's came in and he ripped it off and he said, you get a free ice cream cone with this too. So every time I go to Culver's, I order a kid's meal and come in. But part of my reluctance here is leaders get too much credit. You know, it is about, you know, the people in the field, the people above you. So when I took over, we had this, this is actually funny, I'm emotional. We had leadership training. the first few months, a whole group of us. I was looking through it when I was going through my office stuff this weekend, and we took these personality tests, and you remember Scott out at Fontenelle? You were there, right? And so you took them in advance, and they first session, they plotted up where everybody scored on their personality test. And they had these 4 quadrants, right? And for the most part, everybody's centered. But there was this one way up, out, away from everybody. That was me. I just think differently than most people. And I think we started that. And so, the patience that they showed was much appreciated. I think I'll stop there. Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I'm just down the hall, so you'll still be seeing me. So
Perfect. I'll have you step up front with the commissioners. I'm going to read the proclamation, and then we'll take a picture and get you on your way. Whereas Dan Hoynes is ending his time as Sarpy County Administrator after nearly 7 years of service, and whereas Hoynes joined Sarpy County in 2017, leading an organization of more than 700 stakeholders, and whereas his commitment to the community and to consensus building have been instrumental in guiding forward critical county projects, whereas during his tenure, he helped shepherd the first phase of the Sarpy sewer expansion that will foster economic development, the construction of the new Sarpy County Correctional Center, and important mental health initiatives to improve public health. And whereas Hoynes is a longtime public servant whose work extends beyond his time at Sarpy County, and whereas he served at the City of Papillion for more than 2 decades, first as Chief of Police, then as City Administrator, whereas his dedication, steady hand, and vision have been invaluable to the county and will serve him well in the next endeavor at the Sarpy County and City's wastewater agency. Therefore, the Sarpy County Board of Commissioners hereby recognizes Dan Hoynes for his leadership and extends their sincere appreciation for his service. Thank you so much, Dan.
So as the commissioners make their way back, I just made a unique observation here too. There's a lot more people that came to me leaving than came when I got appointed. So I'm not sure what to make of that, but I do appreciate you all being here.
And then I have one last comment I forgot to make up there. I always tease Dan about having the butterfly tattooed to his chest when he started at Sarpy County. And I know he probably put a buffalo on the other side. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Don't get the emoji for the sewer agents.
Good advice, Commissioner.
So next, in the way of comments, on the note of Dan moving to a new position, the position of county administrator will then be open. The posting for that position has now closed, and I'm excited to announce that the board will have a resolution on the January 9th agenda, which is our first meeting back, to vote on the appointment of Bonnie Moore to the position of county administrator. Bonnie. Bonnie, along with Scott Bovick in the seat of Deputy Administrator, would make a great team for the county moving forward, so we're looking forward to that vote on the 9th. Let's see, we're on to other commissioner comments. Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to call out Scott Bovick. We were talking about roads and all the great things that happened with Connect Sarpy, but Scott's been our point man to make sure that the commissioners were plugged in at every facet of that project and others. And it can be difficult work and it can be thankless, but I don't want anybody to lose sight of the fact that he was instrumental in the success of Connect Sarpy. If I could pin the rose on any one Sarpy employee, it would certainly be Scott for all the work that he did. And I really appreciate it. And I wanted to publicly acknowledge that. So thank you, Scott.
I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hope you get to spend some good time with close family and friends.
Anything else?
No further comments.
Just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to everyone.
Dan?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate that. I actually, Commissioner Kelly, had Scott's name written down along with Bill Conley and his staff. You talked about, the field guys, as Tom Crockett was talking. We really divided the work up here the last 6 years. I was the sewer czar, Scott was the road czar, and Stu was the jail czar. While Scott certainly was the guy every single day. The innovation, creativity that Bill in particular brought was critical to where we're at as a county, and he takes that very, very seriously. And so wanted to recognize and appreciate Bill and his team, Jenny and Michaela. He's always good about identifying them, so I'll follow his lead there. But and probably missing many others, but thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, the consent commissioner's agenda. These are items of business that are routine and typically expected to be adopted without dissent. Would anybody like to see any items removed from the consent agenda or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.1 is public hearing and resolution 2023-381, special use permit for a home occupation 1 major in AGR Agricultural Residential District to allow the operation of a gunsmithing business at the property commonly addressed 18605 Cornish Road and legally described as Lot 1, Debbie's First Edition, Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located southwest of 180th Street and Cornish Road. Applicant Mark Robles, Jason Kubicek, planner. Or Kelly Jack.
Commissioners, for your consideration is a special use permit for home occupation 1 major to allow a gunsmithing business in the AGR agriculture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jose's
I
coming.
pulled it around the other side. Thank you, Dan and Jose.
Okay, that better. Gunsmithing business in the AGR Agricultural Residential District on a property located south of Cornish Road between 180th and 192nd Streets. The site is 3.5 acres in size and is approved with a single-family residence and accessory building. The applicant currently has a federal firearms license for his rifle smithing business that he has been operating out of his family's residential garage on a property near 168th and Q in Omaha. He is requesting the special use permit so that he can transfer his federal firearms license to their new address in Sarpy County at 18605 Cornish Road. The federal firearms license is mandated to be in compliance with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives regulations and will allow him to continue operating his small part-time rifle smithing business at his new address. A few highlights from his operation plan. No employees. Mr. Robles is the sole proprietor. Hours of operation are Sunday through Friday by appointment. And Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., the ATF requires at least 1 hour of availability for compliance inspection. Very few people would come to the premises since the business operates mainly on delivery, pickup basis via UPS or FedEx. Record keeping will be in compliance with ATF regulations. Firearms will be stored within high-quality safes monitored by video surveillance. Sarpy County regulations for home occupations require that there be no external evidence of the home occupation, with the exception of vehicles. Any on-site operations shall occur entirely within the principal residential structure or detached accessory structure on the property. This means discharging of firearms on site in conjunction with this business is prohibited. A copy of the FFL license issued to the applicant shall be provided to Sarpy County Planning and Building once it is issued. No opposition to this application has been received by the Planning Department, and the Planning Commission recommended approval at their November 21st meeting. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit for a home occupation 1 major to allow gunsmithing from the applicant's personal residence located at 18605 Cornish Road, legally described as Lot 1, Debbie's First Edition, in accordance with the operation plan submitted and the comments in the Planning Department report, as this request is in conformance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations. The applicant, Mark Robles, is present if you have any questions for him. And I would be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Kelly to start, or any questions for the applicant, or does the applicant want to say anything? Welcome to, if so. Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Any members of the public want to come forward on this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Warren. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 5.2 is public hearing and resolution 2023-380, special use permit in RD 50, two-family residential district to allow an in-home childcare facility at the property commonly addressed as 7332 South 155th Avenue and legally described as Lot 37, Emerald Oaks, 2nd Edition, Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located southeast of 156th and Harrison Streets. Applicant Gladys Nair, Jason Kubicek, Kelly Jeck.
Thank you, Commissioners. For your consideration is a special use permit for an in-home child care facility in the RD 50 two-family residential district on a property address 7332 South 155th Avenue, generally located southeast of 156th and Harrison Street in the Emerald Oaks residential neighborhood. The site is improved with the single-family residence. Gladys Nair, the applicant, is requesting the special use permit to operate an in-home child care facility from her personal residence. The daycare will be licensed by the state of Nebraska, and this special use permit is necessary for the state of Nebraska to issue the license. Mrs. Nair will have one employee who also resides at the residence. Hours of operation are 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Friday. Maximum number of children will be 8, and that includes one of her own. Any on-site operations of the home shall be carried on entirely within the principal structure on the property, with the exception of customer vehicles on the outdoor play area. Child care facilities require a passing inspection from the state of Nebraska Fire Marshal, which this facility has received. The applicant shall provide Sarpy County Planning and Building Department with proof of all required approvals and licenses by the state of the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. No opposition to this application has been received by the Planning and Building Department, and the Planning Commission recommended approval at their November 21st meeting. Staff recommends approval of a special use permit for in-home child care facility for 8 children at the property address 7332 South 155th Avenue and legally described as Lot 37, Emerald Oaks, 2nd Edition, in accordance with the operational plan submitted and the comments in the recommendation report, as the request is in conformance with the Sarpy County zoning regulations. The applicant, Gladys Nair, is present if you have any questions.
Any questions for Kelly or for the applicant? And does the applicant want to come forward? If so, you may. If not, this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Mixon. Any discussion? Please vote.
5 nays, none, motion carried.
Item 6.1 is public hearing and recommendation to Liquor Control Commission, Conoyer Garden Center application for a Class 1 beer, wine, distilled spirits on sale only liquor license for business at 11240 South 66th Street, Papillion, Nebraska 68133. Brad Conoyer, manager.
Thank you for having me.
If you can state your name and spell your last name for her.
Brad Canoyer, Canoyer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Basically just seeking a liquor license for kind of sipping shops. So we do little classes and people come in, have a glass of wine, do a wreath, stuff like that. So it's really pretty simple. Not really have on site all the time, just for events.
Perfect. Any questions for Mr. Canoyer? Okay, this is a public hearing. Would any members of the public like to be heard on this topic? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 6.2 is Resolution 2023-379, final reading and adoption of proposed ordinance to establish a law regarding golf car use within the county, to establish a process for that registration, to establish a penalty and provide a method of enforcement, and to provide for an effective date. Andrea Gosnold Parker, Senior Deputy County Attorney.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today, the proposed ordinance to establish a law regarding golf car use within the county comes before the board for a vote. Prior to today, and as an overview of the process, on November 7th, the county board directed the county attorney and administrator to draft an ordinance, and discussion was held on the substance of that ordinance. Notice of a public hearing was published on November 15th and November 22nd, and a public hearing was held on November 28th. The public hearing constituted the first of 3 required readings. The second reading of the ordinance title was on December 5th, and today, as I mentioned, is the final of the 3 readings, as well as the vote. No changes to the language have been made since the draft was published for the public hearing. I did correct a few formatting inconsistencies with spacing, but there has been no substantive changes. I can answer any questions.
Questions for Annie?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 6.3 is Resolution 2023-392, Nebraska Humane Society Animal Control Services Agreement between Sarpy County and the cities of Bellevue, Gretna, La Vista, Papillion, Springfield, and Ralston, effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. Andrea Gosnold Parker, Senior Deputy County Attorney.
The proposed agreement is primarily a continuation of the agreement that the county has already entered into with the Nebraska Humane Society and the cities of Bellevue, Gretna, La Vista, Papillion, Springfield, and Ralston. For many years, the county has contracted with the Nebraska Humane Society for Animal Control Services. The terms of this agreement, as I mentioned, are generally consistent with the prior. The rates will stay at $3.19 per resident, and the residency rates are determined by GIS per year. The minor changes to this agreement include that the NHS will no longer pick up caged wildlife. That is a separate entity that takes care of that service. And there is the Humane Society is in the process of establishing rates for charges for repeated pickup calls. This is kind of similar to our false alarm ordinance. If there's a situation on the property that generates repeated calls and is not fixed, then the Humane Society will charge a fee. As I said, they're in the process of establishing that fee now, but this contract allows for that possibility. I can answer any questions.
Questions for Annie?
Did you say they will not pick up a caged?
Right, that's a separate entity. There's a wildlife rescue that does that. So, however, if there's a rabies exposure, the Humane Society will still take care of that.
Is there any way, or do they provide the county any tracking as far as what we actually get benefit-wise? I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't seen a Humane Society vehicle in my community for probably a year plus. And this is a lot of money that goes out to them.
I can certainly reach out to them and see if I can get a record of calls made and trips made out here, yes.
And is there anyone from the Humane Society here? Which again is shocking to me. I mean, this is a major contract, that they don't even send someone out to answer questions or represent.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with the payments, and I think the Humane Society generally does a pretty good job. However, when will the payments start? In January? Do we make our first payment, or how's that work? Do you know how the invoicing goes on this?
Yes, they invoice, I believe it's monthly, and
Okay.
it's, like I said, it's based on the population at the set rate.
Well, I think in light of Commissioner Warren's comment and the fact that there's been a lot of really, really negative press here lately about the Humane Society, what I would like to request is that we table this till our first meeting in January and make a request to the Humane Society to come address the board and tell us what actions they're taking to fix all the problems that were recently identified in the Omaha World Herald, so that we have a better feel for the corrective actions that are being undertaken, and make sure that, you know, that our money's being well spent. I also have some questions about animal control and how that's done in the county that I'd like to maybe hopefully get addressed by the director or their representative. Now, I know they've recently had a leadership change, and I've heard a lot of great feedback, and so I think things are definitely trending in the right direction. But I think Commissioner Warren makes a good point. This is a major contract, $3.19 per citizen, which is, you know, do the math, it's a lot of money every year. So I think it would be appropriate for somebody from the Humane Society to come down and just kind of answer Commissioner Warren's questions and just talk about the processes they've got in place. My one issue with the Humane Society all along is not been about service. It's just been about location. It's not a convenient for a Sarpy County citizen to go to the Humane Society because it's way up in the northern part of Omaha on Fort Street. It's just not convenient. Okay. So when an animal control officer writes a ticket or impounds an animal, it's a burden for our citizens to have to go all the way up there to take action to remedy. So about 5 years ago, I want to say, maybe 4, Commissioner Warren and I did a field trip up there because we wanted to learn more about the operation. And we asked if we could get a satellite facility in Sarpy County particularly for animal control. So if animals, strays are picked up or off the leash are picked up or whatever the case may be, there would be a Sarpy County location that would service the residents of our county that would be more convenient and appropriate. That takes money, it takes resources, it takes personnel, and so it may not happen, but I certainly would like to make that pitch again to the director of the Humane Society, because as we've talked about here for a while, the growth is coming, and we could certainly, I think we have enough population now to support something like that. And I don't know what the consensus is, but me personally, I'd be willing to pay $3.20 if it opened to, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? I think I wouldn't be reluctant to pay a little bit more if it was servicing our citizens much better than it is today. So.
Do you have any legal or administrative concerns on tabling this until January 9th?
Well, the current contract does end on December 31st. In theory, on January 9th, we could state that the effective date of the contract was January 1st, but that does leave us a little bit.
So ideally, we would pass this and then speak. Hopefully, the head of the Humane Society would come to address the board on the 9th.
Yes, and I can reach out to them and get that set up, as well as request the specific information that Commissioner Warren was looking at. And we can also, at that time, reach out about
Well, and I'm not opposed to that either. I mean, you know, I just assume, that's why I was asking what the terms are. Usually net 30, you know? You usually don't pay for services in advance, because if you don't get them, you don't want to pay for them. So
Right, it
generally you pay in arrears. So that's why I was asking. But I'm fine, David, if you want to vote on this today, that's fine. But I think Commissioner Warren's point's right on the mark, and we would really like to have somebody come out and talk to us about the service.
Okay.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve.
okay.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug. Is there a second? I'll second that motion. So motion to approve by Commissioner Klug, second by Commissioner Burmeister. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 2, nays
wait,
Kelly and Warren.
Well, wait.
Mr. Mixon. Gary, are you voting?
I'm thinking on my vote
Okay.
here. I'm going to go this way.
Ayes 2, nays Kelly, Mixon, and Warren. Motion failed.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
I'd like to make an amended motion to table the action for till the first meeting in January, and then we'll
Okay,
take it up
one
for a
second.
vote.
I'll
just-
second that.
be a separate instead of an amended.
Okay,
Yeah, a separate
that's
motion.
fine.
Okay.
Motion to table
Whatever
that.
keeps me out of legal, trouble here.
Did you second that?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to table item 6.3 by Commissioner Kelly, a second by Commissioner Warren. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none. Motion carried.
Item 6.4 is Resolution 2023-395, Agreement with Neighbor Good Community Pantry, formerly known as Tri-City Food Pantry, to provide funding under the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, for pantry design and construction related activities in the amount of $400,000. Scott Bovick, Deputy Administrator.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have with me today Andrea Powers. She is the president of the board for the Neighbor Good Food Pantry, formerly the Tri-City Food Pantry. I'll talk a little bit about the project and the ARPA funding, then I know Andrea wants to have a chance to share some of their mission and some of the details of the project with you. So this past June, the county board did allocate your final allocation of ARPA funds, and in that allocation was $400,000 towards this project at the food pantry. What you have in front of you today is the actual ARPA agreement that sets out the terms and conditions of between the county and the food pantry to make sure that the funding is used per the expectation and on the timeline that we expect. With the ARPA funding, it is important, I think, to remind the public on the board's priorities. Number one priority was mental health services, and one of the projects that you did was to fund the behavioral health unit in the new correctional center. Obviously, we've talked a lot about infrastructure today, another high priority, and ARPA funds were used for some one-time sanitary sewer, road projects to benefit the county. Public safety was another priority. If you remember, we funded some radios for the volunteer fire departments. We're also upgrading all the emergency sirens throughout the county, which is a great and needed project. And then tourism was an area that was a priority for ARPA funding. Obviously, that's an industry that was hit really hard during the pandemic. And so you funded some tourist attractions and some tourism initiatives throughout the county. And then finally, something that was also important was to impact citizens and residents who are negatively impacted through the pandemic. And you funded such things as working with the Midlands Community Foundation to identify needy organizations throughout the county. And so Midlands Community Foundation has done a great job with that. We've also done a significant amount of money to rent assistance, utility assistance for those in need through our Human Services office. And so under that category, we now have the food pantry to be able to help them launch a new building. I know Andrea might talk about it, some partnership that they've had with the city of Papillion. Our contribution is $400,000. I believe the building project is closer to $4 million. So also in line with the board's expectation, we're not the sole funder. We're one of the funders as part of a funding package. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the details, but I'll let Andrea share what she would like with you.
Hi, Andrea Powers, Powers. And yes, I'm the president of the Neighborhood Community Pantry. I didn't intend to speak today unless there were questions, but I sat in this room and heard about all the awesome projects in this county and the passion, the drive, and the determination of everyone in this room to get those projects done. And I was like, we have been remiss in not addressing this kind of a forum with the pantry previously. We currently serve nearly 800 clients every month. These are people all throughout this county who are food insecure. They're veterans, they're seniors. You generously gave us money for a delivery vehicle and the ability to go get large donations. I believe it was about a year ago, and we use that daily, so thank you. It helps us accomplish our mission. Not only is this new facility, I should talk about really quick, we are in 2,000 square feet right now, serving 800 clients monthly. That is intake of all donations, that is distribution. We can have one client at a time in our space. We don't have room for more than 2 or 3 volunteers. We literally operate in kind of a hallway and a very small room. So we have worked with the city of Papillion. Papillion is the center of the county. It makes sense. It's nicely located in between, we're on American Parkway behind the Papillion Police Department, currently in the Heartland Family Services Building. We will be next door, is the land that we've procured with the city. Very nice access between 72nd, Cornhusker, and 84th, and that plays into a future point here. It'll be approximately 10,000 square feet, and it gives us the ability to allow clients to shop for their own food. There's dignity involved in that. It allows us to be open much longer hours and serve many more clients. We serve any client in any zip code in the county. The other things that we didn't want this building to be just one purpose. So we have worked with Jesse Errett and Emergency Management. We will, when we get it built, be the first permanent and pre-planned point of distribution for the county. So if there's any natural disaster or anything such as that within the county, this is pre-planned. The staffing is already predetermined. We know traffic flows and things like that, which we already talked about, how nicely these major arteries funnel to that location. So we would be able to, we would already know where tarps, ice, water are coming from. So we can quickly pivot to having cars drive up, and we've already laid out this in their traffic patterns so that we can get supplies to lots of people anytime. And we know with our weather here, we will have an event in Sarpy County within a few years. So that's why we want to get this building built. The other thing is we will house Sharon from Sarpy Human Services. Anytime you can put multiple services under one roof for these clients, it's helpful. They have limited transportation, things like that. So anytime we can get them rent assistance and things like that, along with food assistance, it's just a less burden on them. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the $400,000. We are actively trying to get the rest. We're a grassroots effort. It's mostly the board that's doing the fundraising. So again, thank you for helping us to get this project completed. Any questions?
Yeah, how much have you collected?
So we have the grant of the county, and then we have approximately $100,000. And as I had talked about before, we are looking at the potential of a professional fundraiser. Currently, we are, volunteer board that is doing the fundraising, and so.
Okay.
But we do understand the timeline, and we will get it done. This is necessary. It's necessary for those who are food insecure. It's necessary for the county. So we will make it happen.
It's very honorable work. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, and thank you for the county's help.
Any other questions for Andrea?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kelly, second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 6.5 is Resolution 2023-387, set salary for the Sarpy County Public Defender for the term of office beginning January 1, 2025 through December 31, 2028. Dan Hoynes, Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As the resolution states, the Sarpy County Board is required by statute to set salary for all elected officials prior to January 15th of each year. I think it's important for the effort here to note that this wasn't done by moistening our finger and sticking it in the air. There's actually a compensation committee in Sarpy County that we had several meetings, lots of healthy discussion, debate. At the end of it, there are 4 criteria, and they're listed in the resolution that we recommend this number to the board. 1, best interest of the taxpayers. 2, balance and matching comparable salaries in other jurisdictions. 3, adequate compensation for work performed. And 4, the goal of keeping property taxes as low as possible. The proposed setting of the salary that would have an effective date of January 1, 2025 would be a starting salary of $175,000 and then increasing 3%, 3%, and 4% in the 3 subsequent years of the term of office. So happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair. Respectfully request approval.
Questions for Dan? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
Well, I'd like to make a comment before I make a motion. I'd like to thank our chair, Madam Chair, for leading all the efforts to come up with this salary. I think it was done very scientifically, very appropriately, and it turned out to be a very fair process. However, I would like to proffer a amendment to the proposed resolution with regards to paragraph 1. And I sent a copy to the clerk. Do you have that?
Correct.
Okay, but I'll read it into the record. The only change I made was to paragraph 1, which talks about the salary. Number 1, the salary for the public defender of Sarpy County for the term January 01, 2025 through December 31st, 2025 shall be $175,000. Said salary shall be subject to increases for 2026 through 2028 as follows. Annual increases effective January 1st based on the following formula. If the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers Midwest region, all items, as published for the November immediately preceding each January for 2026 through 2028 is A, less than 2.5%, then the salary increase for the public defender shall be 2%, or the actual CPI, whichever is lower. If it's greater than 2.5% but less than 3.5%, then the salary increase for the public defender shall be 3%, or the actual CPI, whichever is lower. And C, if it's greater than 3.5%, then the salary increase for the PD shall be 4%, or the actual CPI, whichever is lower. Everything else is fine and good to go. So that's my motion.
Okay, motion to approve.
Amend paragraph 1, or section 1, I'm not sure.
Motion to approve amended resolution, as Dawn said,
Yes. Got it.
made by Commissioner Kelly,
I'll second it to get it discussed.
second by Commissioner Warren. Discussion.
Yeah, I have a question. I guess the question being, we don't use the CPI index for any other.
You're right.
And so that's a good start then.
That's a good start.
So knowing that, I guess the question being, if we're trying to standardize and equalize as much as we can throughout the county, why should this contract be an exception?
Because you have to start somewhere.
So is this the path that you think we should move forward with?
That is the path. I think it's the fairest path because historically, and trust me, I've seen this come full circle, David. When I first came here, we were doing CPI, and I lobbied against it because I didn't think it was appropriate at the time because it was written differently. And I'd like to take credit for this as an epiphany, but really it's best practices if you look across county government. And I modeled it after, more specifically, what Lancaster County does. And it works. Because what it does is it will adjust the salary based on actual conditions that are underway in our county. And it's just not a, what I called it a TLAR, that looks about right method. It's actually based on defensible data. And then every 4 years, it will be adjusted based on market and comparables. So I think it should be the model moving forward for all elected positions and all collective bargaining agreements, for that matter, moving forward. So that's why.
Other discussion?
I just, Dan, do you have the information that went into coming up with the 334?
It was consistent with what we did with the other 6 countywide elected offices 2 years ago. Gary, that was the logic.
Okay. And then Commissioner Kelly, so based on what you said, if, let's say it stays, the CPI stays, I think there was a reference, it was, the last one was 2.9.
Yeah, they just came out with the data for November 2023. I think it went to 2.8, but don't quote me on that. But it doesn't really matter, because the way the resolution reads is that whatever that November CPI is will set the precedence for the following year's salary.
No, and I understand that. So what I'm saying, if we go into next November, and we're doing 334,
right?
And it could be 4, 4, and 4 the following 3 years.
It could be,
right?
And
Or
maybe it should be, but
it could be 2, 2, 2, and it could be a combination. My only point is, how do we get past the 3 years? How does it change? Is 4 the most it can ever be?
Yeah, it's capped at 4%.
Okay.
And so it can exceed 4%. And if CPI is low, then it'll be whatever CPI is. It's a fair agreement, I think.
Another comment, just I don't disagree with this path, but if we're looking to make a wholesale change to our policy and how people are paid, I would like to see a lot more data on how that would financially impact the county before I start with this one.
Well, and that's a good point, but the role of the fiscal manager or fiscal office is if it is to find the money that it costs to run our county. And it's going to, I mean, to me, it's a much better path than just arbitrarily using 334 because we did it 2 years ago. So and that's why we're in this. That's why we're in this predicament. By the way, we've had a lot of bad decisions made from this dais, not necessarily by these people, but historically, and now we have to live with them. And so I think we need to get this thing back on a path that's defensible. And if somebody asks, well, why are you paying this person this much? I can say, well, it's based on data, hard data, the comparables, the market, and the cost of living index, which provides a guideline for any future changes. To me, that makes perfect sense. Now, if you guys don't want to do that, then forget the comment I made about you got to start somewhere, because all we're going to do then is keep looking in the rearview mirror and keep replicating what we've done historically.
I'm comfortable looking into it, but I need more data before, and even I want to stay consistent while we are on one path. If we choose to switch paths and the data suggests that's the right thing to do, then I think we can start to go there. But I'm
Yeah,
not comfortable.
well, and I kind of understand that to a point, but what data do you think you're going to get by looking, that you don't have already? What data are you going to get unless you have a crystal ball that looks into the future and tells you what the cost of living is going to be in 2027? There's no data out there that's going to.
We can look in the rearview mirror to see what price consumer index was compared to what we did.
We certainly can.
And how that would have, what financially that would have done to the county. And I know it's not going to tell us the future, but it's going to give us a better indicator than anything I have today.
Well, and that's true, but I will just point out that anybody that buys financial things like mutual funds, the first statement in every prospectus is past performance doesn't guarantee future result. So again, at best case, it's just an indicator, but it's not going to provide the data.
Yeah, I
that
still
you're
look at the
seeking.
indicators before I invest in my mutual funds, though. So
Well, that's fine.
And just a comment go along with that. We're looking at this much of our budget, and I can't even make that. This is small. This is the public elected officials and chief deputies would be affected by this. So it's not going to be a significant number to throw off budgets or anything else. But I agree with Don that I think it's defensible. Where now it's kind of a wag.
And for what it's worth, I didn't just, I talked to the existing public defender and told him I was going to proffer this because I didn't want anybody to be surprised. And so I've tried to be very transparent about this. I just think this will help future boards and our board in the future to set appropriate salaries and not have to guess what we think the economy is going to be doing 2.5 years after an elected official takes office, because we don't know that, and we can never know that. So I think it's a good template maybe to use in all our future negotiations. And I've structured it in a way that it's fair to the individuals, but I think it's fair to the taxpayers too, because we're going to stay on the low side of the argument, whether it be the actual salary that's proposed or the CPI, because we're going with the lower number.
So I just have one more. I just need somebody to clarify something for me. The comment would be, you're using the model based on Lancaster County, correct, Don?
Well, I could.
Or similar
Yeah,
with.
I'm not using their model. They do it a little differently. They bring in percentages, and it's very complicated. I just tried to simplify it.
Okay, and that's fine. That's fair. But they do cap it, and
Yeah,
it is capped.
they also limit it.
Okay.
They also have an upside limit.
So do they just allow this on their public officials, or do they have this in their union agreements?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know they have it on their elected officials.
Okay, so my comment then is with union agreements, and that would be Mr. Hoynes, how easy is this to put into a union agreement contract?
Everything's a negotiation. Unions, there's a requirement that you pay market. And so the market adjustments are always what end up being the arm wrestling at a union table. We're talking about the annual increases, more commonly referred to as COLAs. So it's always a two-pronged approach when you sit at the table. What's the comparable market? And then you get to this portion of, okay, well, how's it going to age through the scale over whatever period of time?
And my point of asking that question is, because we've dealt with this in the last 2 years with the cost of living being, obviously you have to take a snapshot at some point, and that snapshot's in November of what it is. But when inflation was running 8%, and obviously we've got the bargaining going on, and they're saying, well, inflation's 8%, we need 8%, you know. So you put something in with the cap, that's my only, not so much a sticking point, because I do agree with Commissioner Kelly on a cap, because if we were riding this roller coaster and going 8%, you know, and then there were years too before this inflation took off here in the last 2 years. There were years that we were 0.5% or we were 1%. We were still giving raises more than that number. So, okay, I've got enough information. I'm just processing.
I think the last thing I want to point out is that I'm talking about salary escalation. The most important part of any salary is that you set the base salary at the right and appropriate level. And that's something that Commissioner Klug has been pushing for many years. And we just haven't accomplished it. So right now, the board sits up here, and we don't really know for sure if everybody's compensation package is appropriate for their skills, their responsibilities, their duties, and their job. So I think part and parcel with this sort of sea change, if you will, the way we do compensation, I think we need to do a top to bottom review from A to Z of every position in the county. Classify it, make sure it's appropriate, and if it's not, make those adjustments. Because I think one of the things that we've gotten into is particularly in the collective bargaining, not so much with elected officials, it seems to be much easier and collegial, but with collective bargaining units, we're setting escalation based on salaries that may be inappropriate to start with. So I think that's something that we as a board collectively need to fix. And it's a discussion I had just today with the director of HR about how we approach that moving forward. So I think that will make the process a lot better, a lot fairer. I mean, because at the end of the day, you want to pay people a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. I mean, that's the goal. It's kind of like the Goldilocks, you know, just about right. And certainly you want to be competitive. And threading that needle is easier said than done. So to me, this is a good initiative. I think it's something that we can use going forward in all aspects of the salary negotiations that we're involved in, including our own, which is really just a fate of statute that it's just a terrible thing to make people set their own salary, you know? And so none of us even want to talk about that, and we won't. But we will at some point, and I think this is a precedence that we should follow.
Did Mr. Striggins want to be heard on this topic?
I don't. I'm listening, and I appreciate Commissioner Kelly for giving me the heads up.
Perfect. There's a motion and a second to approve the amended resolution.
Wait. One last comment. The 334, was that's the adjustments after, so everybody felt comfortable with the salary for 2025, the 175 is being appropriate? Or was this trying to also take it to a level where maybe it was more appropriate over time? I don't know.
Well, can I answer that?
Yeah,
I didn't change the base salary, was established in the resolution 175, so I'm certainly comfortable with it. I can't speak for everybody else, but the adjustment I'm making is for years 26 through 28, how that salary is set.
And I understand that. My point was the 3, 3, and 4, whoever in the compensation committee, was the 3, 3, and 4 also a combination of getting the salary over time, or was it getting it set now?
Yeah, the base salary was really set at what the comp showed, and the 334, it's hard because, you know, we're talking about a starting year of 2025, so we don't really have comps for going out that far.
It was based on precedents, and in my opinion, bad precedents that may have been applicable in 2022 or whenever we came up with that, but it's certainly not going to be appropriate.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Please vote.
We're voting to accept the amended, correct?
The amendment.
Correct.
Who seconded it?
I did.
There we go.
This is for the amended. Okay.
Ayes 4, nays Klug. Motion carried.
Item 6.6 is Resolution 2023-398, Countywide Wage Classification Change Request Process and Policy. Angie Burmeister, Chairman. So this also went to Compensation Committee, and we had a lot of discussion around a reclassification policy. This has been kind of a difficult topic because generally the board does not favor wage reclassifications, particularly not for some of the reasons that they've been presented in the past. But I think we consider them in limited circumstances, and we've had some of those arise. So we're trying to have a policy to set forth what those considerations would be and a way to do them when they come up that fits within the budget process is the goal of this policy. We recognize them in circumstances like a reclassification eliminates an FTE, or it reduces the overall budget. Those are the kinds of situations where a reclassification would be favored. I would say also that, and Don mentioned it a little bit, we're working on some studies to look at our overall classifications of wages as a whole. So that will be coming up over the next probably year to 18 months, and hopefully we'll have some more data there. But the goal here with this policy would be to say when the request should be made to be considered, and generally give the thought process of when the board would favor a reclassification, and what we would be looking at in that, so that the elected officials and department heads would know that. They're only, under this policy, they'd only be considered once a year when we can weigh the budget impact and fit them into the budget process. And the policy describes what that process is and also the sort of limited circumstances in which they would be considered. And that way the board can vote on them under that policy. So questions, or does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Klug. Any discussion?
Well, I have one comment, and I'm going to vote for it. I don't like it because the review, and I've talked to both Commissioner Warren and Commissioner Burmeister. I think the review process needs a little tweaking, but let's we can do that moving forward. I think in concept it's a great idea. So, but I do have some concerns about the review process that I think we can tweak, but it's generally the 90% solution, at least right now, I would say. So,
any other discussion? Please vote.
Commissioner Mixon? Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Item 6.7 is Resolution 2023-401, Premier One Records Agreement with Motorola for Sarpy County to add on to Douglas County's Police Records Management System, RMS, in the amount of $349,448. Tom Dargy, Assistant County Administrator.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I appreciate the time to talk to you about this important project. This is a project that we've been working on for about a year and a half. It involves a lot of entities in Sarpy County, the Sheriff's Office, the 911 Center, and the County Attorney's Office, and then also our other partners in law enforcement, the Bellevue Police Department, Papillion Police Department, and the La Vista Police Department as well. So we currently have a system that we're using now that we implemented about 5 years ago. The county's done a lot of hard work on working through that along with some of these agencies. And we've just come to the point, unfortunately, that it's just not working for us for what we need to do, especially in the areas of in-car reporting for officers and the streamlining of information. And so we went and looked at two avenues of it. The first was how much would it cost to go out if we were to implement this on our own. Just to begin to do that was about $1.8 million, just to do that initially. The county currently is in an agreement with Douglas County in their computer-aided dispatch, their CAD system, and they also utilize an RMS system. And so in speaking with them, for a substantial decrease in costs, we can move with them and get on their system. The other benefit to the cost savings for everybody is the sharing of information. So what happens in Douglas County, we can see. What happens in Sarpy County, they can see. And so for our law enforcement partners, that's a huge plus. And so we already have an agreement with all the cities, and that is based on the current system that we utilize. And so we would literally mirror the same system where the county would go out and pay for the project initially, and then the cities would reimburse the county as it currently sits now. The other plus to this project is that it's a 10-year agreement, and all of the fees and costs are known for 10 years out. If there's anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to talk about that as well.
Questions for Tom?
Make motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Klug, second by Commissioner Warren. Any discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carried.
Thank you.
All agenda items having been addressed as published, the Board of Commissioners is adjourned.
Thought process.